Teams. Some feel like we died and went to heaven, whilst others are more like a living hell. And then there's that place in between. What does it take to rise above all of this and create a dynamic, united team? Let me begin by giving you a couple of really scary statistics. According to Dr. Leanne Davey, 90% of employees want and believe that teams are critical for success. We're tribal, by the way. We love to feel like we belong somewhere. Yet, more than 75% of them consider that their teams are ineffective. Ouch! Deloitte reported that more than 75% of senior executives do not feel confident in their ability to build cross-functional teams. How did this all happen? How did this be the place that we've starting from? After 30 years of working in executive leadership transformation, I can tell you these statistics are accurate. Leaders want great teams. So I won't ask you to put your hand up that you don't want that. I don't think there is a leader who doesn't want that. Yet, we live inside of a whole bunch of nonsense that we've been fed, which completely undoes us. Cliched statements like, there's no I in team, discombobulates us and has us second-guessing ourselves instead of being good human beings with good intentions. In my experience of growing 3 businesses, until I really got who I was and the impact that I made each time I opened my mouth, I couldn't build the kind of team that I really wanted. Actually, there is an I in team, and that I is you and me. For those of you who've attended our webinars, you'll have heard many of my personal experiences where I was hit over the head with the proverbial baseball bat and got real about myself and what it takes to lead. This webinar is no different. If you've been here before, you'll remember my story of Rose Kulesha, who let me know how difficult it was to work with me. I'm not proud of that moment, and it was and remains painful, a painful turning point for me. What does it take to build a kick-ass team and leave my ego at the door, giving other people the place to shine? There's no silver bullet to this one. And the process and all the cliches and cutesy sayings that we have about team just don't cut it. A more recent experience here at Integrity and Values was doing the team dynamic workshop with our own team, putting our team through a process that we do with our clients, naming what we can be like when we're on the dark side of team, calling ourselves insania mania. I can tell you now, I still cringe when I say that. Then doing the work around who we aspired to be. Grooving in the slipstream. Martina came up with that one, and I just love it. Last year, during the height of COVID, it became obvious to me that if we were still in insania mania, we would not have come through intact. It was tough, and we wobbled in and out of grooving. And I'm truly grateful to a wonderful team who created a dynamic where we could name the dark side, and in the naming of the dark side, and in the moment that we called it and gave it that name, we tamed it. And then we can actually create something new. Only in naming what is actually happening can you tame it. And knowing as a team that it's never a done deal. You're never done. Our invitation today is to get down and dirty about what it's really like in your workplace, and then to take an action away from today's webinar that you could really make a difference inside of your own team. It could be something that you start doing or something that you stop doing. For those of you who are new, we'll pose a question and then send you off to your breakout rooms for a discussion. If you haven't already introduced yourself in your breakout room, tell everyone what company you're from, where you're located, and then we'll discuss our first question. So our first question for today is, what are some of the myths and platitudes about teamwork? What are some of those myths and platitudes that people believe to be true? Off you go. Welcome back. So what are some of the myths and platitudes about teamwork? Let's begin with the true definition of a myth or a platitude. A myth is a widely held yet false belief or idea. And a platitude, I love this one, is a flat, dull or trite remark, especially one uttered as if it was fresh and profound. It is a comment or statement that's been used way too often to be interesting. Let's highlight some of the common myths. So there's 5 common myths that I've come across in all the work that we've done. Number 1, we don't have time to focus on teamwork. It would all happen just by magic. If you focus on building a dynamic, united team, it actually creates time. It does take conscious attention and work. A 2-day wonder workshop makes no difference. It has the lifespan of a good Chinese meal. You're hungry in an hour. Myth 2, we have to like each other to be a good team. Whilst it's more pleasant to work with people that we like, it's no guarantee for team effectiveness. In fact, researcher Richard Hackman found that grumpy orchestras often performed better. Number 3, being a team player means suppressing individual excellence. We often live in the false dichotomy that I can't be a team player and a star at the same time. Nonsense. If you can do both, you lift the people around you. Myth 4, teamwork can overcome significant lack of talent. No, it can't. If people cannot do what is required, you do not get the results. Full stop. Competence and capability matter. And then last, and maybe the biggest, conflict is bad. Extensive research has demonstrated that conflict, when managed properly, strengthens relationships and teams and can serve as a catalyst for better solutions, innovation and growth. So those are your 5 main myths. Here are a few common platitudes. So there's no I in team. How many of you heard that one? Yeah, you're familiar with it. Man, do you want to get discombobulated? Have someone say that to you. All for one and one for all. Yay! What nonsense. Work smarter, not harder. I've been working really hard and smart and it didn't make any difference. Teamwork makes the dream work. Trite comments like this. I don't want a team of champions, I want a champion team. And we're all in this together. Well, I sometimes feel like other people aren't in here and I'm the only one here. You ever had that thought? Hard work always pays off. Nonsense, it doesn't. Platitudes are a place to hide behind. They are the language that reinforces the myths. When we use these throwaway lines on people, it stops us and them and shuts down the conversation. I had an experience where one member of a team said to another, while the staff performer was saying what they wanted from the team, they interrupted and said, "Can you say we and not I? There's no I in team." The conversation ended and the point was lost. And the real issue was not addressed. I have a favourite response to overused platitudes. This is what I say. What's that supposed to mean? We use these sayings to deflect our inability to deal with complex issues or what is happening around us. These myths and platitudes keep the current status quo in place. When we ignore the impact of each of these myths, we ensure the statistics I mentioned earlier are kept in place. 90% of employees believe teams are critical to their success, yet more than 75% of them consider their own teams ineffective. More than 75% of executives do not feel confident in their ability to manage and build cross-functional teams. For the rest of this webinar, I'd like to give you some debunking tips. You interested? You say yes, okay. And so that you as a leader can get on with the real work, and that is leading the people. Our next question is this: how does the myth of having to like each other impact teamwork? Off you go. Welcome back. So how does the myth of having to like each other impact teamwork? Liking people that you work with has its advantages. It's not a prerequisite for a great team. Some of the best teams are made up of people who do not socialise or necessarily like each other. That doesn't mean you can't work together effectively and produce extraordinary results. We all bring something to the team, and it's the differences that make a team stronger. Appreciation of those differences is what creates the strength. If we demand have to like you relationships in the workplace, we muddy the water, and important issues are not addressed effectively, and we end up with unmet expectations which lead to frustration, resentment on both sides. Then the myth of conflict is bad kicks in and we're stuck. Put your hand up if you're stuck with people that you like and you can't say what needs to be said because you don't want to hurt their feelings. Come on, put your hand up. There's people that you don't say things to. Make sure you come to our next webinar on values-based leadership then. Having clear rules and boundaries establishes clean relationships that can withstand any accountability conversation that you as a leader are required to have. There are a number of ineffective band-aid solutions that leaders continue to use in dealing with conflict or issues inside of their business, and they don't work. We have long, painful dinners. You done that? Spent thousands of dollars on a dinner, and then you have to sit next to that person you don't even like. And then they send you on a weekend retreat, and now you've got to sleep in the same room as them. And you go, oh, this is so lovely, I love it. And then you have a one-day team building, and they swing you by your feet across chasms, and you go, yay, we've done that one, didn't work. Right? Office drinks on Fridays. People just get drunk and tell you what they really think. And then you have a monthly barbecue, same. They get drunk, tell you what they really think, that one beer too many. All these things are very pleasant when you have a dynamic, united team. If you don't, it's just a waste of time and money. And as you continue to avoid facing the real issues. Great teams fight about what's important. No one likes conflict. It is the pathway to a harmonious team. If more than 75% of leaders are not confident in running cross-functional teams, we can guarantee that the fight in the organisation and your business is dirty. To build a great team, learning to fight, and the optimum word is fight clean, is paramount to your success. Conflict supports a team when it is about the results and alignment to strategy, vision, and values. Because then you know what you're fighting about. When you do, the myth of having them like you and conflict is bad and not having time for teamwork becomes non-existent. So, to support all of you to understand how teams operate and what is required to grow a dynamic team, we'll go to our next question. What are the behaviours in a dysfunctional team versus a great team? So what are the things that happen inside of dysfunctional teams and what are the things that happen inside of great teams? Off you go. So did you have fun with that question? It's a huge one. This conversation is huge. And we normally take a whole 2 5-hour sessions to talk about it and to discuss it with the leadership team. What the heck is going on here? So in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you a high-level look at a complex process. Let's begin with this statement. You can take a superstar and put them into a poor culture, and the culture will win every time. They will digress to the norm or leave. So people will either in your organisation quit and stay or quit and leave. How many of you know that that's going on inside of your business? People have quit and stayed, or they've quit and left. Our problem are the quit and stayers. Those people who add to the toxicity of the culture. What does it take to have a superstar stay and have them lift the team? How do we have the conversations about talent or lack of talent and maintain people's dignity? It's tough, hey? Because that's what we're dealing with as leaders. Teams go through stages of development that if you do not address what is required to move from one stage to the next, they will get stuck. Remember the question I asked, is there someone in your team you don't challenge because I like you or I'm supposed to like you is running the show? No team escapes this process. You will pay in time, energy and money if you ignore it. You may even have heard of this process. I've changed some of the terminology as I've learnt more about what it takes to shift a team from becalmed into squalling, into sailing and then into the spinnaker run. There is a 5th stage, broaching. We're not going to cover that today. It's a whole nother conversation. There are 5 stages. And you cannot jump from one to the other. You go through. Teams go through this development cycle to reach truly high performance. You cannot circumnavigate it. And you can't jump across quadrants. You can't go from becalmed into the spinnaker run. Sorry if you were thinking you could do that. The trick is you don't have to take a long time in each section. So some teams I've been working with have been together and never got out of the first stage of becalmed. I remember a team who had over 175 years in the executive of combined service. And they were completely stuck at this stage. They were very careful who said what to who. I recall the CFO saying to me, you can't say that around here, and definitely not to Mark. When I challenged the conversation with Mark, it didn't look pretty, given that he believed that he was really easy and approachable and that the team was open and transparent. How many of you actually believe that about your teams? They're open, transparent, and that you are really approachable. Put your hand up. I have some kind of these misbegotten beliefs at times. He had silenced the truth sayers. It took something for him to own that he was the lid. I know I am the lid in my organisation. The requirements to move to the next stage of development is to let go of safe topics. If imbecalmed people are polite, nice, impersonal and watchful, like you can't say that, then what does it take to move on? It's much easier said than done. Superstars will not enjoy working in this world of becalmed, pretending we all love each other and that we're performing well. Dipping our toe into the next stage, squalling, takes courage and belief in the process. Now, what happens in squalling is that, the wind is coming at you from all different directions if you're thinking of a sailing analogy. And this stage can feel and look really messy. As leaders, we can lead the way on how we take on the challenge. How fast can you say what is required to be said? Our teams will not do it unless we demonstrate it. End of story. You a demonstration of it or it doesn't happen. They feel safe to say what needs to be said when we are a demonstration of it. We spend most of our time just getting a team to say some truth to each other. If your truth sayers have been silenced, then this is slow. When it happens, it's exciting though. When we're working with a team in a room, it is so exciting when they do something, when they don't talk to us and they talk to each other. Yes, I can jump up and down and want to do a little dance then. By the way, you cannot give effective, if you can't give effective, unsavoury feedback, you can't give good feedback either. They're like one or other side of your hand. Dipping our toe into this is key to improving performance and increasing capability. Then the superstar can be a real contribution. They can truly shine and will support you as an ally. They will be an ally to others and grow them, and they will be an ally to you as the leader. And you can't get past this. You can't jump it. And most people are terrified about it. Conflict is really important. It brings about bigger and better things happening. Then you can move on to the next stage, which is sailing. When the sails are up and the wind is great, you start developing skills, establishing procedures, and giving feedback immediately. After you've been through the pain of squalling, we think we made it because in the squalling it feels really messy. And you go, yep, we've made it. No, now the big push is needed. What does it take to be a mature, interdependent team? Using the momentum of having those tough conversations, you begin to clean up systems and processes in a self-renewing way. The team begins to have healthy joking with each other. They are ready for the big push. Here's what I know and what I have experienced. It takes as much effort, if you look at that clock, to go from 8 to 10 on the wheel as it did to get to 8. It is worth it. So when you're in the spinnaker run, this is where great things happen. No one rests and thinks that they made it. Knowing they have a great team is never a done deal. You can fall back into becalmed or squalling very easily. The good news is, as leaders, you see it, you take action to move with velocity back to the Spinnaker run, where people are resourceful, flexible, open, assertive, and interdependent. Your team will have superstars in it who grow the rest of the team, and where you attract great talent. How many of you in a talent war, you can't find the people that you actually want? You will attract them when you're in the Spinnaker run. You can go back and forth on this wheel as leaders. We can decide how fast you go through each stage. So as each of you look at this, I want you to pick up a pen right now and write where you think your team is. In Becalmed, people are watchful, careful, and they don't say what needs to be said in a hurry. You hear about it months later. In Squalling, it's messy, and they don't know how to do the fighting, and they need here you need to learn the rules of a great fight. And then in Sailing, you start getting organised. And then in the Spinnaker run, you can bounce from one to the other in 5 minutes by just going through it. You're resourceful. Put the number down that you think that you are. I've learnt the hard way. There's no magic to building a team. If you want to attract talent and then keep it together and you want them to stay, you keep going through this process. I never take it for granted. And I'm grateful for a team who is completely unafraid to challenge me, even when I don't like hearing it. Terry challenged me because she helps me write this script, and she said to me, "You're going off the reservation, Jennifer." And she is not afraid to tell me, you do your job, otherwise. So can we laugh about it when we're told? My invitation to you is go on the hunt, looking for what's not working on your team. Remember, if you can see it anywhere in the business, it's in your executive. They are just good at really hiding it. Teamwork boosts performance. It's not a separate activity. It requires the leader's constant attention. It is the most important part of our job. Cause, team. What does it take? Let me hand you back to Faye. I hope that this morning you've got some ideas about where you could go next and what you could do. Thank you.